Did you know that after the dinosaurs died, a new monster was born? Most people think that after the T-Rex disappeared, the Earth became a quiet place. But they are wrong. 60 million years ago, the world was a very different place. It was hot. It was wet. And it was home to the biggest snake in the history of the world, the Titanoboa. Imagine a snake as long as a school bus. Imagine a snake that weighs as much as a small car. Today, the biggest snake we know is the green anaconda. But if you put an anaconda next to a Titanoboa, the anaconda would look like a small toy. In this story, we are going inside the deep jungles of prehistoric Colombia. We will see how this message, how it changed. Welcome to the era of the giant snake. The discovery of the Titanoboa is like a detective story. It happened in 2009 in a place called the Cerrejón coal mine in Colombia. This mine is massive. It is one of the biggest open-pit mines in the world. Scientists were there looking for something else. They were looking for old plants and leaves to understand what the jungle looked like millions of years ago. But instead of a leaf, they found a bone. It was a very big bone. At first, the scientists were confused. They looked at the shape and thought it must be from a giant crocodile. There were many giant crocodiles back then, so it made sense. But as they cleaned the fossil and looked closer, they saw the truth. It was a vertebra piece of a spine, and the shape was perfect. It
Reveals
was the
hundreds
spine
of retro-hooked
snake.
teeth, perfectly adapted
But
for
a snake
gripping
of
and
that
swallowing large
size
prey
was
whole.
impossible, or so they thought. They began to dig more. They found more bones from many different snakes of the same kind. They realized they had found a new king of the jungle. Let's talk about the size, because the numbers are hard to believe. The Titanoboa was 30 meters long. That is about 43 feet. To help you understand, think about a standard Yellowstone bus. The snake was longer than that bus. It weighed about 1,250 kilograms. That is more than a ton. Think about a modern snake. If a large python bites you, it is very painful. But if a Titanoboa just crawled over you, you would be crushed by its weight alone. It did not need venom. It did not need poison to kill. It used pure, raw power. When a Titanoboa wrapped its body around an animal, the pressure was incredible. Scientists calculate that the pressure was like being crushed by the weight of 3 semi-trucks at the same time. Once this snake caught you, there was no escape. Its body was so wide that it would reach up to a human's waist if it were lying on the ground. Why did the Titanoboa grow so big? The secret is in the weather. 60 million years ago, the Earth was going through a period of extreme heat called the Paleocene. In the jungles of South America, the temperature was much higher than it is today. It stayed around 32 degrees Celsius all year round. This is very important because snakes are cold-blooded animals. This means they cannot create their own body heat. They get their energy from the sun and the air around them. In a world that is very hot, a snake's metabolism works very fast. This allows them to eat more, grow faster, and reach sizes that are impossible in our modern, cooler world. The jungle it lived in was a super jungle. The trees were taller, the rain was heavier, and every animal was a giant version of what we see today. What did a monster this big eat? You might think it ate everything, and you would be right. In the same rivers where the Titanoboa lived, there were giant crocodiles called dinosaurs. These crocodiles were not small. They were about 5 meters long. They were dangerous predators with sharp teeth. But to the Titanoboa, a 5-meter crocodile was just a meal. The Titanoboa was an expert at ambush hunting. It would wait under the dark, muddy water, perfectly still. Only its eyes and nostrils stayed above the surface. Because it was so heavy, it was much faster in the water than on land. When a crocodile or a giant turtle came to the edge of the water to drink, the Titanoboa would strike. It moved faster than a human can blink. It would grab the prey with its mouth, which had hundreds of sharp teeth pointing backward. These teeth acted like hooks. Once the teeth went in, the prey could not pull away. Then, the snake would pull the animal into the deep water and wrap its massive coils around it. Living as a Titanoboa was not just about hunting. These snakes were the masters of their environment. Because they were so big, no other animal could hunt an adult Titanoboa. They were at the very top of the food chain. However, life started small. Like all snakes, they probably started from eggs. A baby Titanoboa would have been about the size of a normal large snake today. In those first few years, they had to be careful of giant birds and other crocodiles. But once they reached their full size, they feared nothing. They spent most of their time in the water to support their heavy weight. On land, a Titanoboa would move slowly, like a giant slug. But in the river, it was a silent and deadly submarine. If the Titanoboa was so powerful, why is it not here today? The world changed, and the Titanoboa could not change with it. Over millions of years, the Earth's climate began to cool down. As the temperature dropped, the giant snake began to struggle. Big bodies need a lot of heat and a lot of food. When the jungle became cooler, the Titanoboa's body slowed down. It could no longer move fast enough to hunt or stay warm enough to survive. Also, the giant crocodiles and turtles it ate started to disappear or change. Nature is balance. When the super jungle disappeared, the super snake disappeared too. They left behind only their bones, hidden deep under the ground in Colombia, waiting for us to find them millions of years later. But the story of the Titanoboa is far more than just a list of record-breaking statistics. To truly understand how this monster lived, we have to look at the world that created it. The jungle of 60 million years ago was not like the Amazon we know today. It was a super jungle, a place where the rules of nature were pushed to the extreme. In this environment, the Titanoboa was the undisputed king, but it was surrounded by other giants that challenged its reign every single day. One of its most incredible neighbors was a turtle called carbonemies. But don't imagine a small turtle you would find in a pond. Carbonemies was the size of a small car, with a shell so thick and heavy it could act as a shield against almost any predator. Scientists have found fossils of these giant turtles in the same layers of Earth as the Titanoboa. This tells us they lived in the same muddy rivers. Imagine a battle between a 30-meter snake and a turtle with a shell as hard as rock. The Titanoboa would have to use its massive coils to try and crush the shell, a feat that requires thousands of pounds of pressure per square inch. These encounters were not just simple hunts. They were titanic struggles for survival in the deep swamps of prehistoric Colombia. In addition to giant turtles, The Titanoboa shared its waters with the Dirosaurus
Reveals hundreds of retrohooked teeth, perfectly
relative of
adapted
the
for gripping
crocodile.
and swallowing large prey
These
whole.
creatures were nearly 5 meters long and were built for speed and killing. They had long and snout razor teeth, perfect for catching fish and smaller reptiles. Normally, a 5-meter crocodile would be at the top of the food chain. But in the era of the Titanoboa, the Dirosaurus was often the prey. The giant snake would wait in the shadows of the riverbanks, using its dark green and brown skin to blend into the murky water. When a crocodile swam too close, the Titanoboa would strike with the speed of a spring, wrapping its massive body around the predator before it even knew what was happening. For years, scientists looked at the spine and the ribs of the Titanoboa, but they were missing the most important piece of the puzzle: the skull. Snake skulls are extremely fragile. They are made of many small, delicate bones held together by ligaments, which allows them to stretch their mouths to incredible widths. Because these bones are so light, they usually rot away or get crushed long before they can become fossils. However, in the Cerrejón mine, researchers eventually hit the jackpot. They found fragments of 3 different skulls. This was a breakthrough because it allowed scientists to see exactly how the Titanoboa's brain and mouth worked. They realized that this snake wasn't just a giant version of a boa constrictor. It had unique features that made it the ultimate aquatic hunter.